Hi, I'm Mr. Goodpliers, and I'm excited to introduce to you my new spin-off channel, Collect, Restore, Drive. If you're passionate about collector cars and trucks, stick around because you're going to want to see this. So I figure, why look at me when you could look at more of what you love, collector vehicles? So I'm going to lay this intro over a montage of pictures of vehicles that I've seen along the way, and a few of these I've owned. Taken these at auctions, junkyards. Some of them were some of my friends' cars. Some of them have been sold and are being restored, and some are available. So if you see anything in here that you like, go ahead and drop a comment there, and I'll let you know the status of them. So I want to tell you a little about what Collector Store Drive is. I've got the intention for this channel to show you individual collectors and their collections. I'm going to have some specialty dealers and some of their cars. And beyond that will be restoration tips, some progress footage on some of the vehicles that we've brought in on the Mr. Goodpliers channel. I'll show you guys some specialty shops, maybe hit a little industry news, and we'll be out and about, shows, tours, expeditions, and adventures. Collector Store Drive was something that was born out of my Mr. Goodpliers channel, and reason for doing a second channel is pretty simple. Mr. Goodpliers there started out as many various topics, and that channel really quickly established itself as kind of the niche of junkyards and abandoned places, and quickly kind of figured out as I was recording those that I had months of footage for future videos stacking up, and it just wasn't gonna have enough room in the channel for being able to show you progress of some of the vehicles that we pull home and work on. And so it just made sense to start a second channel to have extra room and space to park that stuff. This is as good a moment as any to tell you a little bit about my background. So I've always loved old cars, and even as a 5, 6, 7-year-old kid, I could point out what the different cars were as they were passing by growing up. And I always had been around old cars. My dad drove old Plymouth Valiants and Dodge Vans, and he had a 62 Falcon that he had driven here from Virginia in 1977 and still owned. And that car sat in our yard while we were kids, and I remember kind of looking at it and playing in it and thinking about what that car's future might be. And that car really started my dad and my involvement together with old cars. He had a real interest and passion for seeing my hobby turn into a career, and so he took me to swap meets, took me to auctions. His business was antique furniture, collectibles, and he would oftentimes buy cabinets or pieces of furniture that were just literally a stack of boards and sticks and completely rebuild them. And so I think that was something that established in my mind a bit of the vision of taking a car that's just a clapped out junker that hasn't been on the road for decades and rebuilding it and turning it into something that has a passion and a purpose again. So all of that culminated in my enrollment in McPherson College. I was there from 2004 to 2008, and at the end of that time, I had really decided that I wanted to have an auto parts business. I actually brought a car to the college to work on some, and I ended up during that time really spending more time going to auctions and reselling parts at swap meets and on eBay. And so that kind of gave my career a bit more of a trajectory toward parts than actually working on vehicles. So I was able to buy a old commercial building that had been a Chrysler Plymouth dealership. It had started in the 30s and then moved into a bigger building in a bigger town in 1987. So it was real neat to be able to be a part of that and go out, find old vehicles that even a couple of them that I pulled in were ones that were actually sold new at the dealership. And so that had a bit of significance to me. And I always am interested in the stories of these cars, where they've come from, what kind of people have had them. Up to this point, my time has really belonged to my customers, getting them going and getting them the parts they need. And I've never really had too much time to focus on any of my own personal projects. And rightfully, they don't pay the bills, customer stuff does. So that's just kind of the way it goes. But I'm at a point where I'm 35. My dad is 72. He'll be 73 this year. And the old Falcon still sits. And he's got a couple old Plymouths that he kind of likes. And I just want to be able to kind of circle back and be able to work on some of those for him. He doesn't really crow about it a lot, but he wants to drive an old car, and I want to be able to help him have that while he still has the time to enjoy it. Personally, I started out building model cars. You can see the little junkyard diorama there, and it's every boy's trajectory. You get that first driver's license, and then the model cars go back in the box, and you kind of hit the floor running. So my first car that I got, my dad helped me buy it. It was a 63 Fairlane that we actually drove home from an auction. Before the auction, we were kind of looking over it, and a guy had talked about just buying that car to use for parts, really just to take the front fenders off of. And I didn't think that that car should have been taken apart, and so I paid its ransom at the auction and saved it from its doom. And that's basically been the story of my collecting since. I've always kind of been more into body work than mechanical work. I like rust repair. I like cutting out panels and making them solid again. I've worked a little bit on straightening dents. I'm not the greatest at that, but still kind of work on getting better at it. And the mechanical side, starting out, I had very little innate aptitude for that. I've grown in that some, and watching YouTube videos, tutorials on how to do certain things on engines and transmissions has helped me a lot to grow in that. And just getting out there, getting familiar with the stuff really helps build that. So that's one thing that I want to be able to do out here in the shop. I've got a lot of basic body tools that I've bought. I've got a sheet metal brake, I've got a shrinker stretcher, I've got just one of the cheap Harbor Freight planishing hammers. All that stuff has come from estate sales and been used and loved, and I feel like it's important to keep those tools going. And I'm currently looking for one or two people to kind of work with me on this stuff part-time. Not really fun doing it yourself. It's a lot more interesting to be able to work on it with other people and have ideas to bounce off of them. So keep an eye out for some more people coming to the channel here. That's about it. I'm pretty close to wrapping this up. I want to thank each and every one of you who has found the Mr. Goodpliers channel and supported that. You guys have helped it really blow up and become something great. And that's why I do it. I do it for you guys so you can see this stuff. Central US, there's still a lot of it around. I know other places there's not so much. And I want to thank you all for coming over to check in here at Collector Store Drive. Brand new channel. We're going to see where it goes. We're going to see what happens. And if you're into collector cars, collector trucks, passionate about those, stick around. This is going to be a good place for you to see a little more of the story being told of collectors, of the processes of working on these vehicles, and even some restored cars, some tours, some shows, maybe some swap meets, and other experiences and adventures around old cars. So be sure to subscribe. See you again at Mr. Goodpliers and Collector Store Drive.